Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions. This is a reading for Capricorn for the month of January in 2021. Happy New Year, everybody. So if you are not a Capricorn, please look to my channel to find the reading for your sign. So this is a general reading meant to apply more broadly across the entire month. And if you're looking for something more specific, please check out my daily readings. In this reading, we'll be using my adaptation of the Celtic Cross, and I'll explain the meaning of each card as I draw them. Now, please leave me a message in the comments section if you have any questions or if you would like some additional clarification. I'd also be very happy to draw a few additional cards for anybody who's subscribed to the channel, so just ask me in the comments if that's something that you're interested in. So let's begin with my Capricorn friends. So this card represents the current situation. This one is what's crossing you or influencing you. This is what you're headed away from. This is what you're headed toward. This is the foundation, and this is your crowning thoughts. This one is your advice, your current environment, your fears, and that one is the overall message or the overall outcome. Okay? So your current situation is this Fool in the reverse. So this is about not being super open to, ironically, the unknown. It's about kind of not trusting or being faithful, but feeling like you need to know what's going to happen, feeling like you need to know how the situation is going to turn out, and being a little uncomfortable with some ambiguity. The Fool is all about trusting and jumping in and feeling like everything's going to work out fine and having that sort of childlike faith. And so this situation for you, you're needing a little bit of comfort that comes from understanding or having a good sense of what's coming ahead, and understanding how the situation is going to unfold. So what's crossing you here is this moon, and the moon represents the source of the subconscious, the unknown. And the unknown is, the thing about it is there's good things there and there's bad things there. But in order for your intuition to function properly, you have to be open to the unknown. You have to realize that, the unknown is not necessarily your enemy. And it takes a certain amount of faith or a paradigm shift to be able to get there, to get to that spot where you're accepting of what's going to come. And so this kind of really reinforces that idea of the Fool in the reverse as what's crossing you or influencing you. You're not really making friends with the unknown at this point. You're kind of resisting it, and you're wanting things to be figured out. You're wanting to know, how am I going to pay those bills? How am I going to, or am I going to have some job security? Am I going to have a job in this amount of time? Or, where am I going to be 5 years from now? There is an uncomfortable attitude toward the unknown that's going on here. So what you're headed away from is this Two of Cups. Two of Cups is generally a pretty good thing. It's a harmonious relationship, and it could be either between you and some other person who really have a good synergistic, harmonious relationship, or this can also just refer to energies within yourself. So it could be that you've had a good balance between, work and life, or saving and spending. There's been some good harmonious balance here that you're kind of leaving behind, that you're moving away from. And I don't know for sure, why you would move away from something that's been working so well. So there is a possibility here that there's some sort of outside influences that are affecting this, and you may not actually want to be moving away from this energy. Generally, this is seen more as a positive. So it could be that something else is affecting it from the outside that's kind of out of your control. But what you're moving toward is the strength card, which is a better thing because the way the strength card works, it's not so much about material, physical strength or brawn. This is more about willpower or inner strength. There's always in this card a delicate little lady who is caressing a lion. And the idea is, or a big beast of some kind. And the idea here is that that lion doesn't eat her, even though he could very easily, because she has such a steady will. This is kind of like a Daniel in the Lion's Den story, where her attitude and just calm demeanor actually soothes the lion, and the lion comes to like her and wants to protect her, in fact, instead of eating her. So this is a type of strength where it's not just your own physical strength, but that type of inner strength is infectious and recruits the strength of those around you. So it's merely sticking to your guns and having this real steadfast willpower. This is what you're moving toward, right? So even though you may have lost this sort of, or maybe not lost altogether, but even though you may be moving away from this Two of Cups energy, this isn't entirely a bad thing, because if you look at the Two of Cups here, these two owls are both holding up one end of this garland, and they are working together. In the strength, yes, there is also a sort of a collaboration that's going on here, but there's really more of a self-reliance and an independence that comes with this, that comes with that willpower, which makes it makes partnerships and things like that all the much more stronger, because you recognize more fully what is driving this, or what you want to get out of it, all that kind of thing. So in a way, these two cards are fairly similar, but I would say this is more mature than this. So it could just be that you're learning a little bit more how to not just stake your happiness on this partnership, but you're learning how to have a little bit more of a self-made energy in this. Now, the foundation of the situation here is this Nine of Wands. So, and it's in the reverse. So the foundation kind of represents what's going on in the subconscious, that is, what's the source of this whole scene or scenario? What lesson are you being taught? And the the Nine of Wands in the reverse, this is a figure who he's been through some things. He has been possibly damaged or hurt in the past. And because of that, in this situation, typically he would be a little bit hesitant. He would be a little bit hesitant or unwilling to proceed because he's so cautious about what's happened. But in the reverse here, there's a little bit of bravery that's going on. So this is the foundation. This is what you're being taught. You're being taught how to move forward with some bravery and some trust, and a little bit more faith in the outcome of the situation, even when you've been hurt in the past. So a big part of this is forgiveness, is learning how to recognize, when a person has done you bad because of ill intentions, or when it was an honest mistake and they didn't really mean to hurt you. And if that's the kind of case, then forgiveness is a really powerful tool, because you don't want to go burning bridges that you don't have to burn, right? And it's one thing if the person betrayed your trust, but it's another thing if it's really just a matter of you having the gumption to stand up and have some forgiveness and to let things go. So bravery is really the core of what you're being taught here. And that kind of falls in line with facing the unknown as well. In fact, all of this is involved with bravery, really, because the Fool is a very brave character, and you may not feel totally brave, but you're being faced with that unknown, which is asking you to face it head on, and to allow it to be, and to approach it with a faithful attitude, right? So a lot of themes of bravery and strength. Really, her whole strength is her bravery, is her ability to just remain calm in the face of danger. So what's in the crowning thoughts, or your conscious mind, this is the King of Cups. And King of Cups here, King of Cups is normally really good with his emotions. He's able to handle things pretty well and not like fly off the handle or something like that. So in the reverse, it's kind of more of the tendency to fly off the handle. It's a little bit of a lack of control of your emotions, and this is in a way that is externalized and visible to other people around you. So this is what's on your mind. So it may be that you're avoiding that type of emotional outburst. You're avoiding, if you're avoiding the unknown, or if you're uncomfortable with the unknown, it may be that you just don't want to be like embarrassed around other people, or you don't want other people to think something is wrong with you. So maybe explore that, think about that. But in one way or another, you're trying to kind of hold it together. You're trying not to lose it. And, I understand why you would, but at the same time, sometimes there's a great release or power that comes with just kind of losing it. I mean, you just have to have some faith in yourself. You know you're a good person. You know that you want good things. So if you just sort of let go a little bit and don't worry about the situation so much, and just feel free to express yourself emotionally, then a lot of times the situation can go a little bit better, and you don't have to quite worry about that so much. Tough for that to be heavy on your mind, because it can sometimes lead to suppression, and suppression can make things a lot worse. I used to be the king of that, no pun intended. I used to suppress all of my negative emotions and never wanted to tell anyone what I thought about them if it was something negative or something like that. And I would put up with crap for a long time until it would boil over, and then I would lose my temper and end up getting in fights and things like that. It was just ugly. Well, I really wanted to avoid that. I didn't want it to go that way. And that avoidance was the very thing that was fueling the fire and was creating a greater and greater tension. And when I finally I sort of snapped, I had a little bit of an episode, I snapped, and I recognized it was unnecessary for me to be withholding all that energy all the time. And when somebody pisses me off or, does something to offend me, you can speak up about it. You can express the way that you feel. And if you do that, then gradually what you start to find is you have some feedback on what happens, and it adjusts the way that you feel. So instead of getting bent out of shape every time something happens like that, you learn to be a little bit more open with how you feel about things, and then you genuinely don't care so much. You genuinely are, you figure out how to deal with those situations and to make sure that they don't continue happening, which again builds that animosity that boils over as time goes by. So your advice is the Judgment card. So Judgment is, you have some good judgment here. You have some good instincts. You have been through some things, obviously, with this Nine of Wands, and you know what's best for yourself. So don't feel as though you have to kind of consciously control the situation so much, but recognize that whatever situation you get into, you are equipped to handle it. You're equipped to get through it. Have confidence in yourself about that, because it's really, the more you try to control the situation or figure out how things are going to go, the more you actually get in the way of your judgment and your experience. You have to kind of let things go, to go with the flow, and that enables you to have so much more energy available to you to be able to approach whatever happens, or to whatever direction it comes at you. A little metaphor here, like world-class champion fencing. These people, they train their whole lives to do this, and they will often there'll be an apprentice and a master type of a situation, and the apprentice will live with the master. And over the course of living with the master, the apprentice will be expected, while he's just going around the house doing his thing, he'll be expected to defend himself from attack at any time by surprise from the master. And, invariably, it's like he's walking around a corner and he's like, I just know that guy's going to get me. He's around this corner. I just know it. So he's real tense and he's ready to defend himself from around the corner. And as soon as he rounds the corner, pop, the master comes out of the bathroom from behind him and whacks him on the head. So eventually he starts to just realize it doesn't matter which way he's trying to defend himself from. That master's trickier than he is. And that's what's sort of involved with being a master, right? So eventually he stops trying to defend himself and he says, well, gosh, I guess if he's going to hit me, he's going to hit me. And so a curious thing happens. Now that he's not trying all the time to figure out where it's coming from, now his reaction time becomes much quicker because he is loose and he is allowing himself to react in the moment instead of trying to prepare ahead of time. So freeing up all that mental energy has a really big effect on how effective you are in your life and how accurate and precise you can be with your action. And so if you find yourself kind of like maybe having really good intentions and trying really hard but making too many mistakes or something like that, the key is definitely to just sort of let go, to relax, to not try so hard, but to instead just sort of numb yourself to the mind and worrying and all those things. So the environment card for you here is the wheel in the reverse. And the wheel kind of goes through natural cycles of life and everything, but it can also point a little bit more to the randomness of life or how things are, they just kind of come at you out of nowhere, it almost seems. I tend to think of this, it's like, I don't know, I don't want to freak anyone out, but if you've ever thought about like simulation theory, like you may be living inside a simulator, the way I look at the wheel is it's kind of that random number generator or the clock which keeps the simulation ticking. It keeps it moving forward. So there's always, you're never going down too long without finding yourself going up on the other side. There's this constant change and cycle, and part of that constant change and cycle is randomness. And in the reverse here, it can be that there is this resistance to that randomness or to that natural ebb and flow. So, and this doesn't typically involve you so much as, like, again, the people in your environment, those around you, but there's this resistance to that natural ebb and flow or change of the seasons, that kind of thing that's going on, which it may be infectious to you a little bit. A lot of times the environment is a big influence on you. So there may be, look out for how people have convinced you that you have to plan, or you have to know, you have to be in control of the situation, because that sort of resistance has probably infected you to a degree. But what you're looking for here is more of openness and receiving what comes about, So the fears card for you here is the Knight of Cups in the reverse. So ironically, this is Knight of Cups is totally go with the flow. He is, the romantic of the deck, and he doesn't care about images and things like that so much. He's more involved with feeling his way through things instead of like thinking his way through it. He uses his heart, and in this deck, I love how he's riding a fish, because that kind of really drives home the idea of swimming and going with the flow, swimming with the river instead of against it, right? So in the fears and in the reverse here, you don't want to necessarily go with the flow. You're afraid to. You're afraid that if you're not keeping things under control, bad things can happen. Heartbreaks can happen. And it could be that you've been through some bad things which have made you believe that have triggered you, so to speak, so that you think that the situation really has to be looked out for, that you need to control it. And so it's totally a reasonable way to feel that way. But this is a challenge for you. This is something for you to overcome. It's not necessarily something that's going to serve you well to feel that way. There is you have to let life flow, and you have to realize that if you spend all of your time trying to be all safe and avoiding situations that challenge you or have any sort of danger about them, you might end up getting to the end of your life and realizing that you never lived it, and that's a scary place to be as well. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that until it's too late. So, ask yourself, if you knew for a fact that you were dying tomorrow, and you're not, I'm not saying that, but if you knew that, how would you act differently today? What would you do if you just knew that you had just a little bit of time left to experience on Earth? What would you want to do with that time? How would you want to live your life? It's a good question to ask in this situation, and it has a way of getting you into a little bit more of a brave spot, and able to, tackle that unknown. Now, the overall message here is this Three of Swords. So the Three of Swords, in the reverse here, you're avoiding having your heart broken. You're avoiding being sad or having a negative outcome. And, that makes sense on the one hand, but you also have to recognize one of my favorite sayings. I feel like I've said it maybe 3 times this month in these readings, but you cannot increase your capacity to know pleasure without also increasing your capacity to know pain. So, heartbreak and challenges and things like that are a part of life. And I want to be clear, I'm not forecasting that you're going to go through these things as part of this reading. That's not what it's about. What it's about is that you shouldn't be avoiding those things, that you should be willing to accept them as another part of life and recognize that moving through those things can give you a greater appreciation for the other things that remain in your life. It gives you a better sense of gratefulness, and that all of these elements are required if a person wants to live life full measure instead of just sort of getting by or surviving. There's a difference between surviving and living, right? So again, this isn't a bad omen. On the contrary, it seems like you've been a fairly careful person to avoid any sort of danger or anything. But this is asking you to open up a little bit, to loosen your grip on the reins, and recognize that some of that stuff is okay. It's okay for some heartbreak to happen, for some bad things to occur, because it's all just part of that journey of life. And it'll lead you to a happier place in the long run. You'll be better off for it. It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, right? And maybe you don't necessarily agree with that, but it's just a matter of time before you recognize that, being closed off and withdrawn is not the way to lead a fulfilling and happy life. So anyway, that's about it. That went a little bit long, but I think it was worth it. For my Capricorn friends, please let me know again in the comment section what you thought about the reading, if you enjoyed, and I would also be happy to draw a few additional cards for clarification for anybody who is a subscriber to the channel. So just ask in the comments if that's something that you would like, and I will see you tomorrow for the next daily reading. Have a good one.